Success in life. How do you personally define success? I think there's a lot of ideas regarding this, and here are a few. All right. For some, it's having lots of money. That's how they define success in life. For others, it may be having lots of things, maybe having a big house. Maybe that's success to them. Others may feel it's leaving a legacy for your kids. Maybe that's how they define success. I've heard some people say it's when everyone respects you. That's how they define success for them. And others I've heard saying, look, if you have friends and family that you're well connected to, you're successful. Point is, we all have different ideas of what it means to be successful. So I define success like this. If you're content with your life, you're successful. Now, at this point in my life, I'm content. I'm content with the life that I've created so far. And by my own definition, I feel successful. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that I don't get off track. I still do. Every once in a while, I have that crappy day feeling where nothing goes to plan. And you're like, oh my gosh, why is nothing going right today? You know, we've all been there. And I still get stressed out from life. You know, I have 2 kids. That's bound to happen. But honestly, at the end of it all, when I look at the big picture, when I'm able to step back, I still feel successful. And to me, that's a huge win. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to try to articulate how I've gotten here and how I've been able to set this up. And again, this is just my personal experience and what's worked for me. So the first question is, how did I get here? It's been a combination of things, really. Luck is involved a little bit. A lot of it, actually. Hard work. I've definitely put in some hard work in certain areas. And here are 2 big ones that have personally affected me. Knowing when to take advantage of opportunities presented to me. That's been huge. And also another huge one for me personally is letting go of things that I couldn't control and focusing in on the things that I could control. But here's the secret. The biggest thing that you can do and the best probability that you will be content with your life is honestly just trying to live all aspects of your life with as much intention as you're able to put together. Knowing why you're doing the things that you're doing with as many aspects of your life as you can is huge. Basically, in a nutshell, be intentional with as many things as possible. That's it. That's the secret. Just be intentional. Now I can hear it now, but Adam, I'm too old. It's too late for me. I hear this, not necessarily with this, but I hear this with a lot of things, right? Look, maybe you're old. I don't know. And again, it's how you define it, right? When I was 20, I thought 40 was old. Now that I'm 40, 80 is sounding pretty old, right? It's a sliding scale depending on where you are in your life. Whatever your age is, maybe you feel that you haven't been living intentionally. Maybe you have tons of regret in your life and you feel that it's too late. Maybe you feel that you're doomed from ever having a content life. I don't know what your situation is. And honestly, I don't know. Maybe there is a point where it's too late. I don't know. All I can tell you is for me personally, I believe it's never too late to try living a more intentional life. And whatever stage you're at, as soon as you start living a more intentional life, it feels awesome. So no matter how old you are, I still think it's worth living in an intentional life. So the next big question is, how do we become intentional in the first place? I think there are 2 main components that's going to help facilitate being intentional, and those are self-awareness and gaining knowledge. So let's look at these 2 main components. Self-awareness will help you figure out what you want to be intentional about. Basically, you're going to figure out what's really important to you. What do you value? Gaining knowledge will allow you to explore potentially many more options that may be available to you. You simply don't know what you don't know. I can think of many, many situations in my life where I'll learn something and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I wish I knew this 20 years ago. So the more you know, the more it can help you figure out what's the best path for you. So I look at the hierarchy like this. At the top, you're going to have a successful life. Now, this part is not important. I think this is just a byproduct of what we're really trying to achieve. Next, we have being content with life. And this is the super important part. And I feel that this is what a lot of us should strive for, trying to be content with life. How do we get there? I just told you, it's being intentional. What helps us be more intentional? Self-awareness and gaining knowledge. And how do we get self-awareness and knowledge? By spending time in these areas. It's going to take some work. Now, in an effort to keep this video on the shorter side of things, I'm not going to do a deep dive on self-awareness and gaining knowledge. These concepts honestly deserve separate videos at some point. But I will give you some ideas to get you started. For self-awareness, where can you start? I'd say a good place to start is start by journaling. You can look up journal prompts. There's thousands of them available. And an example of a journal prompt might be, what am I grateful for? And journaling is just what it sounds like. You're either going to write out or type out your thoughts. And you can do this by, as I said, these prompts. So let's kind of step through it just to put this all together. So you ask the question, what am I grateful for? And let's say your answer is your health. Great. Then you can start thinking, okay, what have I done to maintain my health? Now, if you answer like, oh, I've been pretty good. I've exercised, I've been eating right. Yeah, I feel good about all of that. Great. That helps reinforce, one, you know what your values are, right? You just said, oh, I'm grateful for my health. And two, you've already, it helps confirm that you've put in an action plan and you like where things are going. So that's great. So let's say you still answer health, right? I'm grateful for health. But on the flip side, let's say you ask the question, what have I done to maintain my health? And your answer is, ooh, man, I haven't done that much. Come to think of it, the last year or two, my health it's been good and I'm grateful for it, but it hasn't been as good as I would like it to be. Great. Now you're starting to figure out, one, what you value, your health, and two, you're starting to realize that, okay, maybe I am not doing as much as I should be doing. So maybe you can come up with an action plan. So you're starting to become self-aware through this journaling process. And so the big advantage of journaling is honestly just kind of collecting your thoughts. Now, to gain self-awareness, you may need to talk to someone, a trusted friend, or a licensed therapist to maybe help articulate your feelings and your thoughts. Honestly, if you need to and you can afford it, probably a licensed therapist might be a better option. But yeah, if you have a trusted friend, that could be an option for you as well. The other thing for self-awareness is you have to be honest with your feelings. And this is really, really hard to do. We're always lying to ourselves. We're always trying to sugarcoat how we feel and our feelings, and a lot of times we don't do a deep dive on our feelings. And you're going to need time and space to do this. It's not easy. So let me give you an example. Again, let's just step through it real quick. Let's say you get angry when you drive. And you ask yourself, okay, why do I have this feeling? Maybe it's because you're always running late. All right. And then when you're running late, you feel that people are just driving much, much slower. Okay, what can you do? Well, you could leave earlier. Maybe you could set it up on Google Maps to alert you when there is bad traffic. It also could go much deeper. It may not be as simple as I'm just always running late. Perhaps you start diving into that feeling of why am I angry right now? It could be maybe you have a short fuse with other people because you're angry at your spouse. And this just goes much deeper. And this is just kind of a byproduct of you had a fight with your spouse in the morning and now you're just angry. It could go even deeper than this. Maybe you've had some kind of trauma in your life and you just realize eventually that you're just more of an angry person because you're upset at the world or angry at the world in general. I don't know how deep it goes. And this is something that you'll have to figure out. And if it goes really, really deep, again, you may require the assistance of a licensed therapist to help guide you through this process. But trying to be honest with your feelings is a really great step forward for self-awareness, if you can do it. So let's look at gaining knowledge, another component to all of this. I try to keep it simple. So I would say, take a subject you want to learn as a hobby. For example, maybe it's gardening. I don't want to learn gardening, but let's say for you, you want to learn gardening. Okay, so that's going to be your learning a hobby type area. Also, take a subject you don't want to learn, but think it could be really beneficial for you if you learned it. The way I like to think of it is, if I don't want to learn this, but will this move my life forward if I learn it, is another question you can kind of answer yourself. So for me personally, a good example of this in my life was learning taxes and investing. I did not want to learn this stuff, but I knew it would move my life forward. So eventually I invested the time to learn it. All right, so what do we do with this? Well, we're going to spend 15 minutes on each area. So it's going to be 15 minutes on your hobby, and it's going to be 15 minutes on the subject you don't want to learn. So the total will be 30 minutes, right? It might be hard to find this time, but I think it's a great way to start gaining knowledge. So how do we gain the knowledge? You could consume this through reading books, researching online, taking a class, watching a video, many, many ways to do this. I will warn you, I think it's really, really important, and one of the first steps if you're trying to gain knowledge is to figure out and learn from high quality material. This isn't always easy to parse out, but the question I sometimes ask is, what makes this person qualified to teach me? Is it just a random person? Does this person show, does this person have results, and is this something I can learn from? Another component to gaining knowledge that I think will serve you very, very well is be open-minded to other viewpoints. It's very, very easy to get stuck in one viewpoint, and when that happens, you're not going to learn other avenues. And kind of on that same idea and thread, it's also this concept of being curious. Being curious and open-minded goes a long way in gaining different knowledge and things that you can eventually hopefully apply to your life. That's the goal anyway. Now, as a bonus, I always keep a book available on my Kindle on a topic that I think will move my life forward. And I attempt to read 15 minutes a day, but it's not always possible for me. But I keep it by my bedside, and it's kind of it's just there. And when I do get some downtime, it's something that's easily accessible, and I'll just grab it. And eventually, I will iterate through that book. In my opinion, these are the two top skills that you can work on in order to apply as much intention to your life as possible. If you're able to be intentional with your life, I feel everything else will just naturally fall in place. So I think this is really, really important and really, really worth trying to get better at, being intentional. All right, final piece of advice. This stuff takes time. I'm still working on this stuff. And honestly, I think I started like 20 years ago. I started probably when I was maybe 16, 17, little bits of my life I was able to apply intentionality to. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make is I've been doing this a very, very long time, and I'm still iterating through it. I'm still building upon it. This stuff takes a lot of time. So don't beat yourself up. Start slow. And maybe start by being intentional on just one thing in your life. All right, so let's just quickly step through it. Quick example. Maybe you work too much and you want to spend more time with your kids. If you don't have kids, this isn't applicable. But again, this is just give you an overview of what I'm trying to articulate here. So you want to spend more time with your kids. Just work on that. Just work on this one thing. So maybe you intentionally set aside 15 minutes to play with your kids, and you're trying to do this 5 times a week. Maybe that's too hard. I don't know. You got a crazy work-life balance thing going on. Okay, fine. Cut it down to 10 minutes. or maybe 15 minutes on the weekends. So instead of doing 5 times a week, you're just doing it like 2 times a week. The point is, start small, do something, and then just build it from there. Now, as everyone says, Rome wasn't built in a day. And, you know, this probably won't mean anything to most people, unless you're a gamer. But I like to say, your factory in Factorio wasn't built in 6 hours. If you ever played that game, it's a continual process. It takes time, and you're constantly iterating and trying to make things slowly better. Try not to burn yourself out. It's a slow process. Embrace the process and have fun with it. But at the end of the day, I think the time that you kind of allocate towards this, it's totally worth investing in. And I strongly believe that living in an intentional life, it's where it's at. It's awesome. That's it for this video. If you've made it this far, I sincerely hope you found it useful. And as always, thanks for watching.